This is episode 111, episode 111 of the Double Crossed Anime Podcast. I guess it's triple crossed this week since we've
hmm
got trip ones in the episode title or the number. I'm Wooper and here's Mario.
Hello everyone.
This week, rather than talking about any seasonal stuff, we're going to get to that next week. But today, we're doing a double feature of Akiyuki Shinbo OVAs. Tenamonya
Yep.
Voyagers from the late 90s and Les Portraits de Petit Cossette,
Wow,
or
that's some
something
good
like that.
French there.
That's from the mid 2000s. And then we have Volume 7
Yep.
of Pluto, which will take us up through Chapter 55. We'll be
Yep.
talking about that around the 1 hour mark, I suppose. But as for the two OVAs, which one should we begin with?
All right. I would say we go to the more famous one
So that
of
would
the
be
two.
Petit Cossette.
That's right, the Petit says. Um, it's interesting that when I look back into like some of the earlier reviews of these two, not necessarily reviews, but like all the articles surround Petit Cossette and even the other
Tenamonya
one.
Voyagers.
Yeah, Tenamonya Voyager. It's like nobody mentioned Shimbo at all. So he wasn't that famous before that.
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of an artiste, so to
Yep,
speak. He was like an auteur
yep,
before Bakemonogatari and Madoka like skyrocketed him to the top of the anime
yep.
world.
Because I remember like after directing Petit Cousins, he moved to Sharp, and then his signature style is like is all over Sharp.
Well, yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, you can see tons of his Shaftian quirks in
Mm-hmm.
Petit Cossette. There are head tilts.
All right,
There are monochromatic shots. There's
yep,
symbolism all over the place.
that's
Um,
right. As for
there's a
Petit Cousins.
bland-looking main male lead.
Well, you know, uh, I rarely is not a plane.
All right.
All right. As for this, the Petit Cossette anime itself, how do you enjoy it?
Um, I don't know. I think I
All
liked
right,
it. It was kind of
all
like a
right.
puzzle box, you know,
Uh-huh.
something that you're trying to figure out as you're watching. But if you approach it that way, then you kind of lose out on just the images and sound aspect of it, I suppose, just as a piece of visual art to be
I
enjoyed.
agree.
Because I mean, I think that that's the level on which it's most accessible and meant to be accessed.
I
Is
agree.
is just taking in what's happening visually, and not trying to parse it or reason with it too much. But I really like trying to figure things out and trying to analyze things and put things in their place. So I had a hard time with that, I guess. It was okay.
I do. Yeah, I do think that Petit Cossette work more as a mood piece. So it all of its imagery and sound are more to evoke the feeling, the mood, the atmospheres, and that is why I don't think the story make that much sense. It certainly doesn't make sense to me for one thing, but the feeling is there. Like you can see the obsession from the main characters to Cosette.
Yeah,
Um,
although in the third episode, it's more that she's obsessed with him.
yeah, that's at where the show lose me a bit though. It's more like when it function at the obsession. I think the show work really well. Or it's like gothic style and the soundtrack as well work
Yeah, I
towards
did enjoy
that.
the soundtrack a lot.
Yeah, but when it come to romance, I don't think they do a pretty good job of
Oh, I
like
wouldn't say that.
painting.
Yeah,
Yeah, of painting Cosette and Aries as a couple, as the one who love each other.
I mean, I wouldn't say that this is a romance in the typical use of the term.
Yep.
certainly they're in love, I guess, but it's more about obsession, like you mentioned.
Yep. And I think when it comes to obsession, it works really well. We see how Eri like starting to lose his mind over Cossette, and I enjoy those a lot. And even like everyone surround him start to see him self destructing over his love for Cossette. I really enjoy the visual as well. The visual show that very well. It just all right. Even when it's revealed that Eri might be a vessel of the one who killed Cossette, Marcelo,
Marcelo.
I st- I still buying it. But then it come to actually Cosette, who the one who upset over Eri and had the feeling for him. It just kind of lost me a bit.
Well, I'm not sure that that was actually the same Cossette that he was in love with. I think because remember there were two Cossettes. That's
Yeah, yeah,
what's
there were
revealed in
two
the third
as well.
episode. There's the one there's the actual Cossette who was trapped in the like the objects in
Yep,
the
the glass, I think.
yeah. Well, yeah, that glass, but also I mean it's implied that she's trapped in a whole bunch of objects in that antique shop.
Yep.
Especially that's especially evident in the fact that like in the first two episodes, we get a whole bunch of point of view shots from within like display cases.
Hmm.
That's Cossette looking from many different points of view at Eri or 80
Hmm.
in the house. So it's not
Hmm.
just that one glass. Like in the first episode, there's a particular focus on that glass because that's the way that he perceives her. But um, that glass becomes less and less important as the show goes on because you realize that it's not just that she's in one particular object, like she's kind of everywhere, she's ethereal.
Hmm.
um,
And then we got the second process.
yeah, the second Cosette is the version of her that was painted um,
Marcelo.
by Marcel. Oh, so the first one was the one that was painted by 80, or the
Hold
first
on,
one is
hold on.
just Cosette herself, like her soul trapped
Yeah,
in.
that's right. The first one is her soul trapped into the object.
Okay. So which one was revealed to be in love with? I mean, it kind of makes sense to me then that the one that was painted by Marcelo, the evil Cassette, so to speak,
Yep.
is the one that was in love with him.
All
Because
right.
that would explain why there's such a jarring shift in the third episode. It's because it's a different character.
I would say that it's the original Cossette that fall in love with him, but it most like the evil Cossette want to take over the original one. So she tried to fake her feeling for to Eri, and Eri realized that.
Um, okay, but what
Then
about at the
again,
at the start of episode 3 with Cassette saying all the going gaga over 80?
yeah,
Is
all
that
right,
was
all right,
that the
yeah,
original
yeah.
Cassette?
That's the that's yeah, that's the sequence that I'm not really sure about because it's like a tonal whiplash for me. Oh, I now that I think about that, I think it's more like the evil Cosette who played the original one. So try to seduce Eri by saying those stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Is that most of what we saw in episode 3 was the
The evil one.
Marcelo's Cassette, the painting come to life.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, it's hard to tell though because there are some very extravagant um, scenes in
Yep.
every episode, of course. But the one that sticks out the most to me is the one in episode 3. You know how oftentimes will move from the real world into like the world in 80's mind where he's
Yep.
tortured by Cosette.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So in episode 3, you know how he often transforms when he's being tortured, when he's in that state of mind. And in episode 3, the first of those scenes that we get is one where he's tied up with wires. He's in kind of his beast form or whatever, and he's tied up with wires in a
Hmm.
Christ pose with his arms extended.
Yep.
And and he's looking at like a massive doll, like a female doll with a bunch of eyeballs floating
Mm-hmm.
in front of it in the shape of an X, also kind of like a cross, and they're like inexplicably in space because the moon is hanging above them. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it's like this is some end of Evangelion level shit where it looks like the end of the world has happened, and
Yep.
uh, that's actually what it reminded me of very strongly is end of Evangelion.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if Shinbo had been highly inspired by that film because that came out 7 years before this.
Yep. But then again, I think this is the original Cossette who make the pack of blood to Eri at the at the end of episode 1.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the Pact of Blood scenes before this really bizarre apocalyptic scene in episode 3, they were
Yep.
a lot more easy to follow, I guess. And we would often like at the end of episode 1 there's like a CG sequence or something where
Yep. 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 Yep.
80 in his mind kind of like travels through a path in order to get to like a part of the forest where he's going to be tortured.
Yep. Yep.
So when you get those CG sequences, it's like the show guiding you from one realm to another.
Yeah, that's right.
But in episode 3, I mean, there was plenty of CG in episode 3 as well. I mean, there are CG sequences all over this whole thing, and I mean,
Ha,
I
ha,
wasn't big
ha.
on those.
Yeah, I was about to ask that how you find the CG using in the show.
I do remember one cut that had heavy CG usage that I really liked, but I can't. I mean, it's so difficult to because the show is so symbolic and metaphorical. Um, usually when you watch something, a scene's place in the story is what allows you to easily access it in your mind. Like, oh, this happens, like 20 minutes before the climax, or oh, this happens on the third day of the story at night, something like that.
Mm.
But here,
Mm.
it's way more difficult to place things that way
Yeah.
mentally. So there
Well,
was
I
one CG sequence in the third episode that I really liked. It was like there was a girl wearing a cape or something, and it was
all right.
largely monochrome, like black and white, and the
Yep.
camera was like pulling out, zooming out.
Yep.
Apart from that, I don't know. I don't know. Mostly, I don't like the CG. It looks kind
Is
of
it
ugly.
all right? Is this like one of these Voyagers, the supporting characters that they are making no they just there. They don't really make any kind of impact at all to the
Well,
story.
they're more relevant in the earlier episodes. Because
Oh,
one is the girl who's in love with him. Another is like the psychic girl
yeah.
who
Well,
senses the
I
evil presence and kind of allows the audience to get accustomed to the fact that Cossette is like kind of starting to
evil spirit.
overshadow the real world.
Yep. Well, I like this girl. I mean, like they have they have really highly characteristic. It's just that there's no room to develop them at all. So they kind of like just there.
Well, they exist in service of 80's character.
Yeah, yeah. That is true. And it just suck because like it's not even one of them. It's five of them, four of them.
Well, I mean they're not
And then
the point of the story.
and then at one point they have like some sort of lunch dinner together.
Yeah, that's the scene that I'm thinking about. That I've been thinking about this whole time as you've been talking about them. That was the
uh
big important thing that they did in episode 3 was talk with one another about 80. This
right.
reminded me a lot of Monogatari.
All
There's the
right.
one male character and then there's a bunch of
All
female
right.
characters and
To be fair, this is the truth that that in Monogatari, these four figures never meet together ever. It's just kind of solo things between like Araragi and one or two of the girls at one time, but like they have never been together, the girls.
I mean, I've barely watched any Monogatari and I've seen scenes where girls get together and talk about Araragi.
All right. All
I
right.
mean, Crab is she talks with what's the girl with the big boobs? What's her name? I guess I
The
need to be
girl.
more specific.
All right, the cat.
Yeah. I've seen them
Ha.
talking together. The monkey girl is like best friends with Crab or something.
All right, let's just go back to Petit
They
Cossette.
meet and talk with each other all the time. Maybe in the later
Yeah.
arcs it's all like one-on-one stuff. I don't know. Anyway,
Um,
yeah, the girls in Petit Cossette are they pale in comparison to
non-existence.
Cossette herself.
Right. And yeah, and they're supposed to be like the woman who's special to Eri. They have like some kind of role in Eri life. So like they one of them is a relative, one of them is the girl who have a crush on him. One of them is like the mentor and friend. You know, like they all kind of have they all have some kind of relationship part to
Yeah.
Eri, but I I would love to see more from them, rather than, like one of them just say some stupid lie.
Well,
And
the more that we see of them, the less that we see of 80 and Cosette and all the crazy
yep,
trippy
that's
visuals.
that's
You
true.
know, then we've
Yep.
got a different story on our hands. Then we've got the story
Yeah,
of
that's true.
a boy who's like in thrall of a painting or the concept of a young woman from a painting who needs to be rescued because
Mhm.
we'd be planting the story more firmly in reality where these other four characters exist and they would
Yep.
be trying to pull him out of whatever's going on. And I mean he's discovered with that horrible scar on his chest in episode 2,
Yep.
which makes one of them, I think it's the one who's in love with him, like really
Mhm.
concerned for him. But if you focus on that concern too much, then the story just morphs into something else completely.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. So
I
how
think it's
how
interesting that he got that scar because it proves that whatever suffering he's undergoing mentally,
yep.
like whenever he communes with Cossette in his mind as part of the pact of blood, um,
Hmm.
that's taking like a physical toll on him. There are real world consequences for that.
Yep. I love that as well. It's like the body horrors as well.
Yeah.
It's like the whole concept I think is really good. And I think like Shimbo worked best when he combines some sort of gothic and horror elements into his stories. So I think that carry over to some of his later work in Sharp. But here I think like his impressionist and his use of like symbolism actually really work in the context of like of this film. But at the same time, I don't think like the story really gel everything together.
I mean, I think the story's fine.
Yeah,
It's just not the point.
the story is not the point, you say.
Yeah, the story's not the point. Um,
Right.
the point is 80, you know, falls in love with the idea of a woman whose painting he has seen, and
Hmm.
he goes crazy and inflicts a whole bunch of horrible mental trauma upon himself. I suppose.
Actually, what is the ending of this?
Are you talking about the scene where there's the cage, and then outside of the cage there's all the paintings of Cossette, and they light on fire, and then you hear
Right.
screaming? You're talking
Yep.
about that?
Yeah, I'm talking about that.
I think that's meant to represent the death of the the Marcello version of Cossette.
Right. Right.
Um, I can't remember what scene came after that, like the actual ending, but
Hmm.
the scene where like the I think the cage. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about there's that scene of like a throne room, right? And
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
throne with a painting above it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and the painting you see the same throne room like a minute beforehand, and there's the original Marcello painting of Cossette, and then
Hmm.
that scene happens where there's that white room with the cage and all the paintings of Cossette burning and screaming. So I
Yeah.
think that's the Marcello version of Cossette that's being killed or exorcised or whatever, and then
Mm.
you come back to the throne room and that's the final shot, and the throne room looks the same except 80 is no longer there. He's not kneeling in front of the throne anymore, but his painting in blood of Cossette is now hanging above the throne. So I think what that's meant to
Mm-hmm.
represent is that the cycle is repeating itself, and now 80's version of Cossette is the version of Cossette that will now like ensnare another young man in the future.
All
Somebody
right.
else, whether it be 5 years from now, whether it be 500 years from now,
Yep.
somebody else is going to fall into in thrall of Cossette, and it'll be 80's painting that they'll see, um, and his
Yeah.
spirit like working through Cossette in like her evil form or whatever. Uh, will try to trap somebody and like steal their soul or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. 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 That kind of makes sense. That
Yeah,
makes
I mean,
sense.
I think the ending is meant to be like cyclical, because at first you see Marcello's painting above the throne, then you cut away, then you come
Mm-hmm.
back and it's 80's painting. So
Mm. Wow.
the cycle will repeat itself at some point.
Yep. It's actually really interesting, but it's this kind of story that like I'm not lying when I say that it took me I would say like 7 to 8 tries to actually finish the 3 episodes.
What do you mean by tries?
I mean
You mean
like
you
when
split
I
up the episodes into individual?
yeah 10 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yep,
I just sat down and watched the whole thing.
because I just couldn't get through like it like one scene to another. It doesn't follow like the same like sense of logic. So sometimes it just kind of like really hard to work on like what is happening right now.
Yeah.
Normally it's not a complaint. No, normally I really love that, but like in this particular case, it's just kind of distracting for me.
Well, I mean, I think Cosette takes that idea of like blurring the line between dream and reality,
Yeah.
or let's say like one plane of existence and another,
Hmm.
however you want to frame it, based on the nature of Cosette and Aedes' relationship. It takes that concept and it cranks it like to maximum. And most stories that do that are actually still pretty straightforward in comparison.
Hmm.
And this one is all about like breaking down the audience's grasp on what's happening in the present versus what's happening,
Yeah.
um, like metaphorically or mentally.
Yeah.
I think that might be the point of the story,
Hmm.
not you know such and such a character goes to such and such a location and does such and such a thing. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
rather than that, it's meant as a perhaps a trial for the audience to get through. Like, oh, you think you you think you know me? Well, do you think you can understand this?
You you know nothing yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Well, but at the end of the day, I think it's Betty Cosette have its merit. So I would say that I still recommend the show to someone who want to see anime as some like as in- an alternative. Like they if they want to see anime as not like normal cute things or like normal shonens, I would put like this show to them.
I wouldn't recommend this to. I would recommend this to fans of like alternative film,
Hmm.
not anime.
Hmm.
It's too strange. I mean, I haven't seen any of David Lynch's work, but I imagine that this is kind of reminiscent of his style.
Hmm.
I don't know. Who's the most obscure like artsy film director who makes stuff like this?
Satoshi Kon.
No, Cone's. Are you kidding? Cone's films are way
Well,
more
all
straightforward than
right.
this.
I some part of Petit Cosette actually remind me of of Perfect Blue.
Dude, I thought Perfect Blue was very simple to understand.
Is it that simple? All right.
Yeah,
But
compared to
maybe
this, yes,
maybe
absolutely.
that's what you. All right. Um, let's see.
Is it
Some
is Lynch the director whose work you think is closest to this, or is there somebody else?
I would say Lynch. All right. Yeah, he actually one of the good answer, but he is more well established. He know about his style more.
What about
Yeah, I would say
who's the
Lynch.
guy who did? Oh, Terrence Malick.
Nah,
No.
he's alright. He's an author for sure, but he's more about the narrative. He's more about like like shooting some of the beautiful scene and spend like 3 4 years to do the editing, put them all together
Ah,
into like a form of narrative,
I see.
voiceover.
Okay.
Um, Darren Aronofsky is one of a good example. He's the one who directed Black Swan.
Yeah, I would think that
With
Aronofsky would be closer to Satoshi Kon.
Yep, yep. Um, who else? Um, Not on the top of my head actually.
I mean, I would assume the best answer would be some sort of French impressionist filmmaker
Yep.
who I have no idea exists.
I can point you to some really good ones.
I mean, if they make
Uh,
anything like this, then I'm probably going to want to hold off on that for a while because Cossette is difficult to digest. I mean,
yeah, it's true.
like I said at the start, I think it was more of an experience than anything. Like I didn't take a lot of notes on it. I just kind of
Yeah,
absorbed it, got as much as I could from it, and I
yeah.
think I enjoyed it. I mean, this is not my sort of anime, not my sort of storytelling in general, but I
Mhm.
like the experience of watching it because
Uh,
it didn't.
how
It wasn't clear what was going to be on screen next.
that's right.
And it was always very
Um,
striking, whatever Shinbo chose to portray.
but how do you compare this one to Lane?
I mean, this is certainly far more visually interesting than Serial Experiments Lane.
Is it all
Yeah,
right?
Lane is like kind of basic looking compared to this. Yeah.
All right,
What's weird about Lane is it's really slow pace and it's like
right.
kind of spooky sound and it's
Big.
the general concepts that it tackles. This is way artsier.
Yeah, because we just have a earlier talk about the directors on Nakamura, and I think like this work is kind of like his work as well because I am reminded of not only Lane but is that he's the writer of Technolize.
No, I don't think so. I think Technolize was a different director.
All right, but Technolize like the first episode have a really good direction as well,
Yeah,
and the
I
use of
actually,
sound.
yeah. Now that you say that, this actually kind of does remind me of Technolize a little bit. Oh, the director of Technolize is Hamasaki, the guy who did Steins Gate and the recent adaptation of Blade of the Immortal.
All right, all right, he's good as well.
Yeah, he's definitely like similar to Shinbo. He's one of the guys he's kind of an auteur director who has infiltrated like mainstream anime
Yep.
culture, despite
Yep.
being, kind of high-minded.
Yeah, and it actually really interesting now that we know like how Shinbo careers like going after this that he would influence like one of the studio to be like really distinctive with style. I think it interesting to see that like in Petit Cossette we can see like 80% of his vision and why Sharp be the way they are now.
Yeah, in some aspects, certainly. But there's also a
Yep.
large part of Shaft that is very, you know, otaku oriented. If you look at things like, yeah, I mean, even
Yep.
the Monogatari series has plenty of
Yep.
like. I remember watching Bakemonogatari. There were plenty of cutaways to like images of characters that were clearly parodies of older anime series like 70s and 80s type of stuff.
Yep.
And Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei often contains references to anime culture.
Yep.
I just got
So,
finished watching the second season
I,
of Zetsubo Sensei, and without like
that's good.
translator's notes, there were times when I was like, "What am I watching?"
Yeah, I would figure that. Yes, I think that's it cool to get to Namamunya would Voyagers
Tenamonya
because
Voyagers, yeah.
this yeah because it is kind of an otaku show for me as well. It
Yes.
had like a parody of like of the I think the 80s. It feels really old school for me, the show.
Oh, it is.
Right.
Yes.
Actually really enjoyed the show.
Oh, nice. That's good.
It's nonsensical.
Oh, yeah.
All
I
right,
frequently wrote
how
as I
do
was watching these episodes, and I was making little notes on them. I would start like a sentence with, "I have no idea what the hell is going on, but," and then to finish my thought.
it's fun. Yep. How do you find Tenamonya Buche?
I mean, I would say right off the bat, it's of the two works, I prefer Petit Cossette.
Yeah, I can see that.
Ordinarily, like I think I would probably like Tenamonya Voyagers better, but
Hmm.
what takes away, I think, from Voyagers on the whole is that it's not a complete work.
Yeah,
Like
that's right.
that's what most people know this OVA for. Obviously, you would know it first for being directed by Akiyuki Shinbo, and
Yep.
second, because it was originally planned to be 6 episodes, and we get 4 episodes here, and then the narrator says,
Nothing happened.
and the story continued, and no one knows what became of them afterwards, something like that. Oh,
Yeah.
my mouse just bugged out. Whatever. So, I mean, what especially hurts it? I mean, I'm okay with adaptations of things being complete, or even stories being complete. I understand that sometimes anime it has to be put together physically. Like
Hmm.
it doesn't a story does not just emerge as a piece of animation. It has to be assembled, and sometimes that assembly isn't finished.
Hmm.
I understand that, but what's especially disappointing is that of the 4 episodes that we did get, the fourth one is kind of a throwaway fan service episode, which I
Right.
did not really like.
All right. I would say like the whole of 4 episode there are a lot of fan services and not necessarily the fourth one. Like all
Really?
these.
The fourth one's the
Well,
one where they're on the spaceship and they're all half
get
naked and
naked.
like their
Yep.
private parts are being covered up with various household objects and stuff.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
thought that was just kind of pointless.
It is. It is kind of, but like the whole. I would say that the whole journey is kind of pointless to begin with.
Well, I mean, if you approach it that way, then aren't all of the episodes just really bad?
No, it's not that bad. It just like they doesn't really take much focus on the story, but more on these girls, like just doing some nonsensical stuff and having fun.
Yeah,
Be
that's true.
being
But episode
stupid.
4 seemed particularly
Put
uh,
Yep.
dedicated to
Push
the
that
idea of
boundary.
just putting stuff on screen.
Yep. I agree.
I didn't really enjoy. I mean, I did enjoy the concept of a baseball pitch,
Yep.
where the ball disappears, and I like that how that was later integrated into the mecha fight at the end, in order to defeat
Yep.
the villain who was like approaching their ship. I thought that
Yep.
was pretty neat. But apart from that, like one thing that I didn't like about episode 4 was the fact that when the ship shut down and went into like emergency mode,
Mhm.
we got a pretty lengthy portion of the episode where it was like monochromatic, and
Mhm.
the emergency lights would highlight each character in like one color. and often within
Yep.
the same frame. So like one of the girls would be in the foreground, she would be in all red because there would be like a red light shining on her, and then behind her there would be like a pink one, and then behind her a green one. What kind of ship has emergency lights like this?
Yes. No. But
That didn't seem to me to be a tool or a method of like bringing out any sort of feeling or emotion in that character.
mhm.
That was just Shinbo wanted to have like a disco theme going on. Like every character is a different color. I didn't see a point in that at all.
Yep. Yep. Well, I think the main storyline is simple enough to follow. So we got Paraila, who is the runaway basically. So everyone just looking for her and try to hunt her down.
Well,
They
she's a
have
former method of the Joukai.
yeah, that's right.
Did I say method? She's a former member of the Joukai. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. She actually very infamous in that universe, which I also really like the setting of the universe. Like we have like all sort of different planet,
Yeah.
and
The Cowboy
planet
Bebop
Earth to
approach.
be yeah, that's right, and the planet Earth to be like the place where all these uh the one who commit like unlawful things would come there to run away because of some stupid law. I thought that was the way they describe that is unnecessary detail, but like so stupid. But I love that.
Yeah, I know what you mean by unnecessarily detailed. There was that in one of the episodes. There was a scene where I think it was the narrator
Yep.
who went to like great lengths to explain
Yep.
what exactly the plot was and why, if they made it back to Earth, their crimes would be forgiven. And then at the end of the explanation, he
Yep.
was like, "Oh, nobody cares about any of this. Back to the story."
Yep. Love that. And we see like one of the police lady who's searching for them.
Right,
And it
Yokoyama,
yeah,
I think was the cop's name.
yeah, Yokoyama. And I think it's really fun how especially in episode 4 how they cut away from like this girl of like feeling really hot, like the heat just run them down, and Yokoyama just like self training, being all serious and feeling cold under the waterfall. Love that. Love all the cut.
Oh, that's right.
So
I do remember the waterfall
yep,
scenes now. But eventually in that
yep,
episode, was it Yokoyama who No, Yokoyama stayed on that waterfall planet the whole time. Was it the stowaway character,
yep.
Elaine, the detective,
Uh-huh.
who was approaching them in the spaceship at the end before what's her face did the invisible
Yep,
pitch?
yep, yeah. That's
Okay.
right.
Okay. Yeah, see, maybe that was another reason why I wasn't too fond of that episode because it wasn't like it was a character who had just been introduced who
Yeah,
was
yeah,
threatening them at the end. I mean, I I don't know. I don't know. I just wasn't a big fan.
yep,
But now I do remember that Elaine, the stowaway, turned out to be a cop, a detective. And at the end of episode 4, Mako, the girl who they pick up in jail
yep,
in
yep,
episode 2, I think,
yep,
she leaves in an escape pod.
yep,
That's a pretty big cliffhanger.
yep. But yeah, I don't know why they just like advertise the trigger. So the teacher, the student, and Paralia as like the main characters, but
Yeah.
they keep picking up like random characters along the way.
Well, just Mako,
So
right?
I
And then
yeah,
Elaine is
just
the
Marco,
stowaway,
and
but
then
she's not actually
Elaine.
joining their party.
Yeah, that's right. And then the two just go out into the pod, go into somewhere else. I would be interested to see how the show use them on the supporting characters.
Like in the last two
Like
episodes, theoretically.
yeah, that's right. Is that like the original, or is that like based from the manga or something?
No.
Original.
Well, I actually I don't know.
The show is original.
Yeah, I assume that it is. Let's check. Um, yes, it's an original concept.
it is the same. Such a shame that like we don't even know the end of these stories.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things it's known for is not being complete. And it does, it that's it doesn't hurt as much as if it had been like one story set in one location, like on one planet, so to speak, or let's
Yep.
say.
Hmm.
Because if it had all been in set on one planet and the cast of characters had been mostly set from the very beginning, then it not being complete is like,
Hmm.
oh man, well, where's the rest of the story? But as it exists and it's in this form, where it's like a road show type of thing, like a Bebop or a Space Dandy, where you're going from planet to planet,
Hmm.
then the fun of the series is seeing what happens in each unique setting.
Hmm.
So we just got 4 of the 6, rather than we only got 66% of a full story. It depends on the way you look at it, I guess.
Yep. Yep.
All the
And like
all the
with the
characters are pretty fun. So even if the story's not
yep.
complete, you know, you got Ayako the teacher, who when they're on the deserted island at the start of
Oh,
episode 3, she's educating them about like irrigation because she figures that
yep.
they're
Yep.
going to
Yep.
have
Yep.
to
Yep.
live on this deserted island for the rest of their lives. So they need to learn about how to
Yep.
survive. What's interesting about that is that she's not only fulfilling her teacher role, I guess,
Right.
but
Which she never have.
she's also had a desperate desire to like teach people
Yeah.
in general that we've seen from the very start of the
Well,
series,
I
because that's how she gets on that planet in episode 1. Is she goes there thinking
yep.
that she has a teaching job, and then it turns out the school is like bankrupt, and then it ends up getting destroyed by Paraya's mech.
Yep. I I actually love in episode 4 how she confessed all her sins, and it just like like I was cheating in mathematics when I was third grade.
Right.
Sorry for the sun. What did he say? The sun is blue and my pinky is weird. That's all my fault. Something along that
I don't
line.
know. I don't know what you're talking about there, but I do remember the scene where she's like confessed. That's like a big trope. Is
Yeah, well,
you're
I
having
really,
you're near death, and one like the goofy character goes to commit or confess their sins, and it ends up being a bunch of trivial nonsense.
yeah, I love that. I love how nice she is.
Yeah, yeah. She is a good contrast to the rest of the characters.
Yep. And then we have Wakana, who is like just she all hyper, to say the least. I love the way that
Is she? I think
that
Mako is the hyper one, right?
Mako is hyper as well,
I
but
think Wakana is
yeah,
like
Wakana
depicted
is
as the
more like
sensible one.
she's not that sensible. She's more like an aesthetic, like do stuff before thinking kind of characters.
No, I don't think so, man. Because
Or
Paraya is the
that's
one
my
who's always
impression of her.
reckless and making bad decisions, and then Wakana gets mad at her.
Yeah, but she doesn't do anything to against that either.
Well, she just gets mad at her and yells at her.
Yeah,
But Paraya keeps like leading the rest of them around by the nose.
yep, yep.
And I mean,
So
given her
so
past
I
criminal
just
history and her connections, she's the one who can get them from place to place.
yep. And I just love the three character. I even love Yokohama the cop, and like all these supporting character are really good fun. So it's a shame that we couldn't see like the team back to Earth, because I want to see like what the Earth look like in that universe.
Right. Yeah, it may have looked completely different. We don't know. I don't think there
Yeah,
were any references to part of it being destroyed by the moon or being
nah,
taken
nah,
over by like pollution or another
not
species or anything like that.
not yet. Oh yeah, not yet.
But it could have been like totally different than we would have expected when they get there. In fact, it probably would have been given how crazy this series is.
Yep.
And
Big.
it definitely is crazy. It's very It's very goofy. Like in
Yeah,
episode
that's
2, when they crash land on that planet, and their ship goes underwater. The
mm-hmm.
ship starts to take on water, and they have to like get ready to escape. Um, Rather than like panic and scramble and try to get out of the ship, you see Ayako doing like stretching exercises as the
Yep,
ship is about to get flooded. She's
yep,
doing stretching exercises like with a big grin on her face, because you got to stretch before you swim. You can't go into the pool until you've loosened up, and that really fits with her character. Like she would be a rule follower
mm-hmm.
as a teacher,
Yep,
and there's stuff like that. There's in the next episode preview for episode 2, the voice actresses play Shiratori,
yep,
that game where you have to like say a word that begins with the same syllable as the previous one ended with.
yep,
Which is just like that kind of demonstrates the show's level of seriousness. Like if you have all the voice actors playing a silly game over footage of the next episode when they could be making it out to be really important. Like you could just go the normal route and say, next time on Tenamonya Voyagers,
yep.
Yokoyama closes in on the girls. Will they manage to slip away?
Yep.
They didn't do that. Instead, they just had the voice actresses do whatever they felt like.
Yeah, it actually that kind of freedom, the plot just free to go everywhere, and like even the voice actors just free to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that.
Yeah, that's one of the big appeals of the series. I think, at least it was
Yep,
for me.
yep,
That it's not a serious story. It's not a big important endeavor. Just
yep.
a few fun characters hopping from planet to planet, trying to stay out of trouble, and
Yep.
failing.
But yeah, always get into trouble instead.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be any
And
fun if they didn't.
some crazy mecha fight at the end of
Yes.
each episode as well.
Yeah, there's always a big mecha fight, and what's interesting about that is that Paraya has like a floppy disk looking thing that she
Oh yeah,
uses.
yeah, that's
She
right.
can put that into any robot that she pilots and transform it however she likes. Which I
Yep,
suppose is the real reason why she's being chased across the galaxy, is that she has this unbelievable technology that she must have stolen before she left the Xiaokai.
yep, yep, yep.
And I'm sure that would have been like the main plot of episode 6 had we gotten it. Is like, you know,
That's
everybody's trying to get that back from her,
yep,
and then she just hijacks another mech, turns it into a gigantic gun, and blows everyone back into space.
yep.
The end.
Is there? Do they provide any reason why that it's got X after 4 episodes?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, people speculate that it was because it didn't sell, because it was an OVA, so each episode's being released one at a time. And there's plenty of time for any sort of production committee or licensor to decide to pull the plug, right? Like if the first 3 sell like crap, they can just decide, well, the 4th one's going to be it. We're tired of losing money on this.
Yeah,
And it's not as though it's the most extravagant production in the world, but I mean, as
yeah,
a late '90s OVA, it does look significantly better than most of what was coming out in that decade. So it was probably pretty expensive.
yeah. Well, still wonder why they spend so much money on this. So maybe that's why they're thinking the same thing and just access.
Yeah, because it wasn't turning a profit, I guess. I mean, there could be other reasons.
Yeah.
You know, Shinbo could have pissed off one of the publishers. Like working too close to deadline and not having stuff ready on time.
Yeah.
They could have just hated it. Like when you're working in the business of media publishing, sometimes the suits just it's not as though they have a problem with you. They might have a problem with the product. They might just think like it's a crock.
Mhm.
And I mean, if there was going to be any director who might inspire that sort of reaction from a publisher, it would probably be Akiyuki Shinbo. Like, especially Petit Cossette, what we just watched,
Mhm.
that makes Ikuhara look like an overdramatic middle schooler. Like that, the Petit Cossette layer of symbolism is far beyond probably anything that I've seen in anime, honestly.
Don't say that. All right. Angel egg.
Um, yeah, I mean, that's true, but Angel's Egg actually feels a lot more cohesive. Le Petit
Right.
Cossette
Compared to
goes to a
this.
lot of really weird and different
Yep.
spaces, whereas Angel's Egg takes place all in one area. I mean, perhaps I would say that Angel's Egg is more metaphorical,
Mhm.
whereas Petit Cossette is more symbolic because it
Right.
just goes nuts
Well.
with tons of different symbols, whereas Angel's Egg
Yep.
is using all of its symbols to make one greater metaphor, one greater world.
Yep. But I gonna disagree with you about Ikuhara's because I think Ikuhara's symbolism is top notch.
Oh yeah,
I
no, I agree. Ikuhara is a great director. But what I'm saying is that the level of symbolism in Petit Cossette makes Ikuhara look
mm,
like an amateur.
yep. All right, right.
It's just so far
Understood.
beyond. Like, Utena is super easy. It's like an elementary school work compared to Petit Cossette, which is just so out there. It's so strange.
Yep. I think that is one of the reasons why people still talk about Petit Cossets even now. I still
Yeah,
hear some of these speaking of Petit Cosette even like in today's conversation.
yeah.
All
Going
right,
back to Tenamonya Voyagers for a second, I want to mention that I really like the music.
right.
I've mentioned Cowboy Bebop a couple times already while talking about this show, but the music was actually reminiscent of Bebop for me. I mean, the jazz influence was a
Mm.
little less, but it
Mm-hmm.
was still like largely rock and pop type music, but there was a little bit of jazz in there, some orchestra, some like orchestral elements, a lot of strings,
Mm-hmm.
and it was always very high energy and
Mm-hmm.
appropriate for whatever mecha battle was happening, or if there was
Mm-hmm.
a more slice of lifey conversational scene, it would be kind of bouncy and quirky. I thought the music was great. Honestly, I think the music is the best part of this OVA. I
All
loved it.
right, I think. Yep, I also think that the music um is the best part of both this one and Petit Cosette.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Who I'm assuming that it was Kajiura who did the music for Petit Cossette. Let me
All
see.
right, I can have a look now.
Probably should have looked that up beforehand. My bad.
Kachiura, yeah.
Yes, Yuki Kajiura. Yeah, I mean the it was even the same. Like she uses the same chord progression basically in everything she does.
All right.
Like it just sounds kind of gothic and
Yep.
uh, a lot of her music sounds very samey. But I did enjoy what I heard in Petit Cossette. I mean, it seemed pretty appropriate for that story, more than it has been in a lot of her other works.
Yep.
Like her contributions to the Fate series,
Yep.
just make that show sound even more self-important, or that franchise seem even more self-important than it already is. Because it doesn't match what's happening on screen. Like Fate is a waifu simulator
Well,
with action scenes.
but I love her work in Madoka. I think her work in Madoka is really good.
Yeah, I like Madoka soundtrack. But you can always identify like Kajiura is not a chameleon the way that say Yoko Kanno is.
Yep.
Yoko Kanno
Oh,
has done a ton
and
of different soundtracks in a lot of different styles.
yep.
Kajiura makes
All
mostly
right.
the same two or three soundtracks over and over, the same way Sawano does.
Right, but there's one show that I think she used the soundtrack differently, and that is Sura Nowoto. You
Oh,
remember the OP?
I don't remember the music from Sora no Woto. Probably because I only saw 3 episodes.
Yep. You
But
can
I'm
rewatch
interested.
the OP anytime.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
What'd you say?
You can watch the OP sometimes to see how it different from the rest of her work.
Well, I mean, did she compose the OP?
They said theme song composition. So yes,
Ah.
this she did.
Oh, so she didn't do the soundtrack. She just did the theme song.
All right. So let me say theme song composition OP, theme song arrangement OP, and theme song lyrics. So
Yeah.
yeah, just the OP.
So she didn't do the soundtrack.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, if it's a one-off piece, then I suppose I could understand
Yeah.
how it would sound very different from the rest of her
Yeah.
work.
That's true.
Yeah, but I mean, I did like Kajiura's work in Cossette, and I really liked whoever did the music for Tenamonya Voyagers. I think they struck gold. Honestly, don't think I would have enjoyed it nearly as much as I did if the music in the mecha battles hadn't been so up my alley.
Yep.
Then it would have lost me during the mecha battles. Like the last quarter of every episode, I would have just been bored and like this doesn't fit with what came before. But instead, the music, provided a nice bridge for me to appreciate that part of the story too.
Do you remember the soundtrack of Now and Then Here and There?
No, I don't. I couldn't hum it for you. I remember it being very, very dramatic, which was appropriate for the story.
Mm-hmm. All right,
Um,
because it's from the same composer as Tenamonya Voyager.
Really? Ooh.
Yep, from the same time as well, 1999.
Well, he or she is
He, the old man.
an
The
old man. Well, even better, dude. Nice. Yeah, they definitely. If I were to look into their work a little bit more, they might end up as one of my favorite
Yep.
anime music people.
Well, he only got like four works.
Oh,
in his,
dude, that's even better. Honestly, that means he's probably a professional musician from another field, and he was tapped for like specific works of animation that would suit his style. That sounds awesome.
all right. Or maybe he just too old. He passed away.
That's pretty depressing. Maybe.
Yeah. All right. One of the and actually the other two is from the 1980s.
Hmm.
So he only have four works. Two of them from 1999, and the other two are from the 1980s.
Well, that's all that my anime. I assume you're looking on my anime list.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's all that they have. But English language anime databases are often incomplete.
Yeah, that's true.
I wouldn't be surprised if he had done other work on
Yep.
less popular, less remembered stuff.
Yep.
Okay, anything else to say about Tenamonya Voyagers?
I think we can move forward to Pluto.
Okay. I would probably have more to say about it, but I don't know what that would be. So let's just move on before I think of something,
You can always get back to it if you want to.
I guess. So this is chapters 48 to 55,
Yep.
volume 7. And I have all my notes here about it, but I've forgotten, since it was a week ago that I read this, I've forgotten most of it.
All right. We get into only one volume left, and our that prediction, our theory from the last time actually turned out to be true.
What was the theory? I don't even remember.
They will get Gesick memory and put that into Adam so that he can wake up.
I do remember Adam waking up.
Yep.
Let me see if I can find where that happened.
The last volume, I think. The last chapter, I think.
Oh. Oh, wait, no. Wasn't it Abra's brain chip that was put into
So-
Adam?
Sorry, say that again.
It wasn't Gesick's chip, was it? It was Abra. Professor Abra.
No. So you mix up the two things. After Gesick died in volume 6,
His wife brings the chip.
to Dr. Tenma.
Yeah, I remember
Dr.
that.
Tenma go to the room where Adam sleep in order to put that into Adam. For Dr. Abra though, it's for Pluto. No.
Oh,
It's,
okay.
Sorry. It's not Pluto. It's for the thing that they try into experiment. The thing that Tenma put like 60,000 or 6 billion personality, and it never wakes up.
I thought that was Pluto.
So we're not really sure that if he was Pluto or not, but I assume that it is Pluto
Well,
because
it could be Bora.
yeah, because at the end of this volume we have like another name show up, Bora.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Bora name has been in the manga from the very beginning. The Bora
Yep,
Investigation Squad.
yep.
And also Vasily, or whatever his name is, one of the orphans who lives with Epsilon,
Upset. Yep,
says Bora over and over.
yep. So yeah, it's not that surprising to see that there is a Bora, but it actually kind of a bit frustrating me that like we are now just one volume left, and we just learned that like there another person out there named Bora we haven't even know of.
I mean, we did know about Bora.
We don't know the true identity of Bora though.
It's a robot.
It's a robot, yes.
Yeah, it's
We don't
Abra's
we don't know
robot,
who
right?
behind Bora. It could be. So we know that Pluto turned out to be the guy that we learned from a few volumes ago. A really nice guy. Do you remember his name?
You mean Abra's son? I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
though.
yeah. Him, the one who come to Holland to study about a plant
Yeah.
tulip because he Saha.
Okay.
Yep. So he's the one behind Pluto, and as Pluto fighting Espalion, um, he's showing his true emotions. So he want Espalion to save him, but then Espalion was killed by
Are you
Bora.
talking about Epsilon?
Yeah, Espalion. Yep.
Okay.
So I just try to work out the event that happened in volume 7.
Okay.
All right. So yeah. So this volume have been talking a lot about Epsilon, and I
Yeah, I
love
remember the fight between Epsilon and Pluto. It happens in like midair, right? And Abra's
yeah
yelling,
and
"Kill him before the sun comes up," or something.
yeah, that's right. And Pluto just like, I don't want to kill you. Why you didn't kill me then? Remember that?
Yeah,
And
because they
then
had
Epsilon,
had a previous confrontation, which was off screen.
yeah, which is we just saw like a flash of
I thought that was really strange.
of yeah of energy bursting. So apparently, Epsilon beat Pluto on that first fight, but
Yeah.
he intentionally not killing Pluto.
Right. And then they have the second fight, and then Pluto lets him live.
Yeah, and then before and then Epsilon have to save his child Vasily, and then someone come to attack him. I think that is Bora, like a very big figure with a head that chop his head off.
Chops whose head off?
Chop Epsilon head off.
Epsilon's head gets cut off?
Yep, there's a panel of that.
Oh, I don't even remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just am not interested in
All
any
right.
of this.
How do you think like do the story just like all come together for you now?
No. Wasn't Gesek the main character
Yes.
at one point? You remember when
Yeah,
when it was Gesick who was the guy who we were following, and then it was
yeah,
Adam. Now they're all
yeah,
dead.
yeah. And now even Epsilon is dead.
Yeah, Adam wakes up. I remember that. That happens
Yep,
in like the last volume, or
yep,
the last chapter rather of this volume, I think.
yep.
So that's, I mean,
Well,
I guess that's good that I have a character who I can follow now who is awake.
uh, I think that this volume we learn a lot more about Vasily. You know, we see how he's starting to open up to everyone before he was sold out to Doctor Apara, and then Epsilon had to come and save him. So we see like the whole like development from Vasily, from very shy, from the one who always speak Bora to the one who like singing some really strange tune.
Oh yeah, there was a song
Yeah, there was a song.
about the like the rivers of fire and ice or something. As I
Hmm.
was reading that, I was like, "Is this Game of Thrones? What is this?" Uh, yeah, I'm really glad that the two and arguably three main characters of this manga were killed off so that it could become Wasily Learns to Talk, the animation.
All right. Yep.
So Adam is awake now.
So
I'm actually looking at chapter 55.
yep.
I
So
understand guessing.
Adam is awake, but we are not really sure like how he's become now, right?
So
Because
he's
he
got
was
big
input with
bug
a
eyes,
very yep,
and he says Earth
but
is going to be
because
destroyed.
yeah, that's right. But because he was input with a really extreme negative feeling into him, no, we're not really sure if he turned out to be a different atom than before or not.
Yeah, I guess. Because
Yeah.
Gesic's memory is in him now.
But it actually actually very interesting about Adam. Like everyone, even to Gesick, regard Adam as like the perfect robot because he can express his feeling. He is so natural that even someone who doesn't know can't tell that if he like a human or a robot. But his father, the one who created him, Dr. Tenma, always see him as a failure.
Yeah, because he's obsessed with the memory of his son.
Yeah.
That's why he
And
regards Adam as a failure.
yeah, and then it's Uran who always come and say to Tenma that I feel your sadness. Well, I feel everything. I
Right.
feel all the feeling in the world.
Yeah, that's Uran's part in this story is to say somebody's sad because,
Yeah.
Urasawa probably can't convey that without a character to express that.
So is it Uran was created by Doctor Ochanomizu?
Yes, Uran is
Hmm.
Ochanomizu's creation to be a companion for Adam.
All right.
Honestly, you know how Studio M2 is working on a Pluto adaptation?
Yep.
I think, I don't know, man. I think I'm going to have to watch that to figure this thing out. Because
What
I
do you
don't,
mean by that?
I mean, the manga version of the story just doesn't engage me.
Oh, right. That's what you mean. Yep.
Like in chapter 51, for example, you know how Epsilon has to go to a safe house? Like there's a military general there who tells him to come to this safe house because he's the only super robot left.
Yep.
And then after he gets there, uh, there's an attack
Hmm.
back in Australia.
Yep.
Which he can sense because he's a robot. He senses that from halfway across the world. So then, as soon as he gets to the safe house where the general is, immediately he has to turn around and go back to Australia.
No. There's something happened right before that.
What happened?
So the tornado come to attack the kids in Australia
Right.
in Hunter Valley, I think. And this is like at the same time there is another tornado come to attack him, not him, but like the
The general.
general
Yeah, because the
in the
general
safe
was a
house.
link to the Bora investigation squad.
That's right.
Yeah, so there's a tornado, and then so as soon as he's gotten to the safe house and the tornado shows up, he just goes back to Australia.
Yep.
What was the point?
Off.
Why did
Sorry.
he have
Off
to
what?
go? Why did he have to go to the safe house only to like? For what was the point for the story? Why did it make him go halfway around the
To
world and be at the safe house with the general and just immediately turn around and go back for the kids?
to lure him away in order to show how important the children are to him.
How about you design some scenes where he's spending time with the children and he gets some dialogue with them in order to tell us
Yeah,
how important they
well,
are to him?
we do have that. We do have the surprise party, birthday party.
Yeah, and he has to leave. He has to leave early because the general's like, "Hey, man, you gotta go."
Yep, yep, yep.
Or his caretaker, whatever
And
that dude with the helmet.
all right, I tell you the one thing that I find really contrite in this volume. That is when Espilon go to the trial
Yeah,
and
there's what's that word where you're court-martialed or whatever
yeah,
it's called, like a military tribunal.
yeah, that's right, that one. In order for him to say that if he whether or not he killed the killers, which is
Right.
Pluto. At the same time, someone come to his house. Sorry, come to his orphanage, and pressure pressure the lady who worked there
Yeah,
to
to give him up for adoption to the
give.
guy.
Yeah, that's right. And then supposedly that Espelon is like the directors is like every decision have to go to him to go through to him before they can make that decision. Nah, it just happened like in a day, and when he came back like Vasily already gone.
Yeah.
It it just
Yeah, that whole thing with him leaving and going to Australia and then coming back. I guess that was the point. That was what Urasawa was trying to achieve, was get Epsilon away from there so that Wasily could be quote unquote adopted. And then
yep.
by the time he came back, he would be gone. So that he could then remaneuver Epsilon again to try to get Wasily back and set up another confrontation with Pluto. I mean, it just feels so robotic, like the way that the characters are moved around from place to place, just in order to set up future confrontations or like twists. I just don't feel, I don't know, I don't feel anything from the characters themselves or the
Yeah.
way that they're written.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
in my notes here, I'm looking over my notes, and do you remember the story about the Thracia Meteorological Center? Really
Yeah.
high tech building, but it
There is a
eventually,
crack.
yeah, there was a crack, like a hairline fracture that brought the whole thing down.
Yep.
The whole
And that
reason that story was told was just so that at the end of both chapters 49 and 55, both in this volume,
yep.
uh, there could be a crack, like an ominous, the final panel could just have a little crack in it that's like widening. Probably some of the least subtle symbolism in manga history, I have to imagine. Like, oh no, the crack is getting bigger. That means, the villain is getting closer. Things are about to come crumbling down.
On the building is gonna collapse
Yeah.
very soon.
Yeah, but rather than the building collapsing, it'll be a metaphor for the whole story collapsing.
All right, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Where is the teddy bear?
Was he in this volume?
Nope.
I don't know, man. Who cares?
Who he is?
He's part of the United States of Thracia. He's like representative of the supercomputer that Thracia has, and I actually think that supercomputer was referenced somewhere in this volume, but I can't remember where.
I don't recall any of that. either.
Okay. Uh, dude, I don't know about this volume. I wasn't
Into
really
it at
into
all.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can see why. But I think as the story forward, go forward now, and especially the next one gonna be like the final volume. Uh, I think that the main character for now is Atom and Yesik. Now that they are fusing into one.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, we've gone 7 volumes already, and I don't, the only character I really liked was Gesicht, I guess.
Yep.
Um, I'm just not sure what's
And
supposed to
he,
keep me rooted in the story. I mean, I'm sure that
yep.
if I were to
Well,
ask Urasawa that question, he would be like, "Dude, the mystery, bro, the mystery of it all.
yep.
What's the identity of Pluto? What is Bora?" But if there's not a character who's investigating that mystery who I care about and who I want to see untangle the truth, then I don't care about untangling the truth.
That's that's true. Yes. Well, at least I can say that the next week gonna be the final volume, and I'm happy to see Dance.
Yeah, thank anime god.
Manga God.
Yes. So thank Osamu Tezuka, whose work is actually being used to create this. Since it's
Yeah, true.
Adam, Astro Boy.
Yep, yep. Well, well,
Um,
well.
yeah, I like Monster, for example. I liked
Hmm.
Tenma.
Yep.
I thought he was an interesting character, like the moral quandary that he found himself in at the start. Do you
Hmm.
save the boy who's with the life-threatening injury, or do you save the politician who comes in later with all the money? And other questions that he encountered throughout the story. And especially his responses to them made me interested in him.
Hmm.
But here with Gesicht, who was basically Tenma, uh, dead. Imagine Monster, but Tenma dies halfway through.
Yep.
You still gonna care about like all the weird side
Well,
tangents not related to Johan that the manga
all
goes
right, all
into
right.
if Tenma's not around?
To be fair, Monster with Tenma, I think Tenma just feature like 70% of the whole story. There are like 30% left on the side characters, one-off characters, and all these like uh tangling threads that like supposedly gonna be relevant at the end.
I can't remember if they even were relevant at the end. I mean, I know
Yeah,
Johan
some
spent
of them.
time at that orphanage where
Yep.
that other guy, I can't remember his name. It was like Krieger or
Oh yeah, Krieger, the guy who smell a lot, right?
oh no, it was Steiner, wasn't it? Or something?
Is that it? Is that the reporter guy?
No. See, I don't know. I don't remember.
All right, cool.
Oh boy. All right, we're almost done.
Yep. All right, let's just wrap up. So the next week we're gonna do the final, like the a look at at the summer anime season. So we're gonna talk about the second half of Japan Sings, the second half of Decadence, the whole
Aggressico.
season of Aggressive Resuko, and the second half of The Great Pretender, which it just come out and the sub is already available.
Yep. And then we'll finish Pluto as well. So we're gonna have to move fast through all that stuff next week. And the week after that, it'll
Oh,
be first impressions time for the fall season.
yep, yep. Busy time again.
Yes, indeed. But not nearly as busy as we'll be 3 months from now, when we have to do the season preview for winter, first impressions for winter, and the best of 2020,
Um,
all in the
it,
same like month time period.
yeah, it actually one of my favorite things to write for the yearly summary. So I'm good with that.
Yeah, that's when you feel as though all your work and all your watching of crappy anime all year has
Head
been
off.
leading up to something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah,
Uh,
this is kind of short postcard this week, but
I'm fine with an
you
hour and
know,
20. That's good.
yeah, that's right. The next week gonna be a lot more
Yeah.
information.
Yep. Stick
All
with us
right.
till then. We'll see ya.
Yeah, see you soon.